Living it, giving it, having it, taking it, moving it, shaking it, creating it, loving it. Living it is loving it. Hello and welcome to Listen and Be Heard. My name is Martha Senator. My co-host is Tony Robles. And we have both worked hard this week to bring you live poetry from a great variety of voices, people of different ages and walks of life. I spoke to Susan Lewis, editor of Posit Journal, and we will hear some poetry from contributors Brendan Lorber, Mikey Swanberg, and Mary Wilson. Tony Robles was representing for Redhawk Publications at the Catawba Valley Festival of the Arts, and he spoke with Jenny Bates, Jennifer Owen, Cassidy Collins, Alan Brett, and the director of the Centro Latino about the Abriendo Puertas program and the workshop led by Scott Owens. Taking it, moving it around. Living it, giving it, having it, taking it, moving it, shaking it. Creating, loving it, living it is loving it. Living it is sewing a coat, investing each stitch with magic, creating a unique design, putting it on and wearing it the rest of your life. Living it is knowing that what you see, what you hear is tangible. It's being a rock in the river and being the river too. It's hearing, you'll never be able to do that. Living it is knowing you will do it. It's speaking the unspoken. It's thinking the unthinkable. It's doing the unexpected. It's quitting before you get fired. Greetings, my name is Martha Senator. The show is Listen and Be Heard, and my guest today is Susan Lewis, founder and editor-in-chief of Posit Journal. She's been the editor since December 2013, which is impressive. And she's the author of Zoom, winner of the 2017 Washington Prize, and 9 other books and chapbooks, including Heisenberg's Salon, This Visit, How to Be Another, and State of the Union. I invited you here today, Susan, because of Posit Journal. I've been getting your regular emails, or I think maybe I've actually just seen your regular announcements on Facebook about new issues. And since 2013, this is now issue 34. Let me ask you, why did you start doing this, first of all?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for having me. First of all, it's a pleasure, and really, I love the opportunity to get to talk about Posit because it is truly a labor of love in every way, and has been from the start. So I guess, I'm a working writer, but I've also always liked some interactive element. Teaching and editing are very related to me. I've done both. And I worked to found more than one other journal with other people. And then I was invited to guest edit other journals, or I worked as one of the editors on other journals. So I had a lot of experience on the editorial side. And at some point I thought, I know a lot of the parameters and I have my own inclinations and aesthetics and, time to do this myself, basically. So that's what I did. Yeah. And of course, I had no idea I'd be at Posit 30 forever. I just
10 years later.
Yeah, right. I didn't think so, but I didn't think about it either way. Just started.
Now, in 2013, I'm trying to think of the state of the landscape. It very much publishing had already been moving into digital website types of publications. Did you consider doing this in print, or have you thought about print, or did you just embrace digitally from the beginning?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I had worked on both kinds of journals. And in fact, I'd worked to found a press that published books. So I had, been on many sides of this, the physical. I love physical books myself. But yeah, I knew I wanted it to be online. There was a stage early on where I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll do it twice a year and I'll have a print annual or a print best of every once in a while or something like that. But the more deeply I've gone into the digital way of publishing, the happier I am about it. There's many things about it I love.
And let's talk about some of those things. I'm curious.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess maybe the first and foremost is that people read Posit from every continent and every country that you can imagine. That's obviously would never happen if I had a small literary journal that, I just mailed out. So the sort of the X factor that, who knows who it will reach and who people might share it with and so on. I love that. I love that it's free. I love that people do not have to pay money.
Now, that was sort of my next question. And you keep using that word love, which I love. Love is a great word. And you're doing this out of love. And I don't see any ads, any commercials anywhere.
Right.
So I assume you're not getting compensated for this labor of love. And I found myself in that position. Even this show that I'm doing, I'm in the same position. I've also found that when you're doing something as a labor of love, sometimes people don't take it as seriously. They might say, oh, well, that's not a real journal, or, that's not a real magazine. How would you answer that? And how do you have some way of measuring what your readership is?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. In our society in particular, I think, but maybe many, monetary value is often equated with value.
Right.
I resist that. I just think there is so much labor that humans do that is not about money. It's never compensated. We can go down this path, in deep, deep ways, enslaved people, women, and so on. Right. The uncompensated labor is what makes the world go, and it's often the most profound.
On overlooked beach. Lover, scoop me up too and carry me in your windbreaker's pink pocket. Oh, whatever else you do, just take me home.
Ether air. What it takes, laminate skull unpending, root, plotted an escape. Did the years parade lightly? Was the calcium in bloom? Imagine if there were 3 oranges and 2 suns, and a bright sense of one setting down and the other, arrayed in a deep and bitter skin, setting us up. We'd probably be taken for fools. Sea and the ocean, on the rippled floor, the wavering nets of light. The sense that some days are auspicious, some nights closed for business, some ganglia arranged to please. That some men are verbose in possession and lack some women holding the doors. That some bread contains, absorbs, seeks company, travels. Unmingling with other less clearly productive waters, this island could feed and carry our blood away. Islet and net shadow, weird canopy weather gold. When at last we're hopeful, secure from our want.
A new day 1. A new day one of us picked out of nostalgia for before the trials, with the same languorous relief as a morning in search of noon who finds it, but only at the expense of no longer being morning. You can cling to brunch or be something magic in the unlocked era already here, when the lights level down and you discover who you were meant to see in the dark all along. The kind of self-lethality that cheese lays on crackers and without which neither's shortcomings lead anywhere cute. My own shortcomings long for the adaptation that caused them, the evolutionary gambit of having become almost all water at the moment almost all the water in the world was inside living things, a Darwinian détente that ripples through my cheerful inability to cope with the apocalypse, as some unethically monogamous attachment to a single cipher, separate from all the rest, when we can't have one without the others, and the space sloshing between them.
Most small journals are in one way or another underwritten by somebody or something. So, universities or grants. So that was another thing. I mean, another way I could have gone was to get nonprofit status and then ask people for money to support it. And honestly, and I want to say about this now before I forget, so our readers don't have to pay anything, but this means our contributors don't get paid anything. And my fellow editors, which I have a very tiny team, they are 100% volunteer also. And they, I have really a core of 2 people, and they've stayed with me now for an incredibly long time. I can't honestly, and I'll say one more thing about that. So poets and writers, we're pretty used to publishing in journals that don't pay us. Maybe if it's a print journal and you get your contributor copy or 2, hooray, that's it, right? But I have visual artists in Posit, and visual artists don't work on a gift, it's not a gift economy the way poetry often is considered. But yeah, and so I thought at first, well, this is going to be hard. But, I can't tell you how much appreciation I get and gratitude because we work really hard on our end, and we work hard to make everything beautiful, to make it be exactly as everybody wants, and then to get the word out and to nominate our contributors, and, for awards and stuff. We do everything. And they're really appreciative because actually I think they're artists and they want their work to be seen and loved. Being accepted, it's a bit, I've had people say, oh, this is a dream for me, and we've accepted people who've tried us many times and did not make it, and then they do, and that's, again, if, I don't know if you're a working writer too, but we all know what that feels like, so we get kicked a lot,
Yes, this show is for readers and writers, and I'm a writer. My co-host, Tony Robles, is a writer, and we like to talk about craft, the business, as well as the actual writing. I think writers are also some of the biggest readers, actually, that writers have, because we all read each other's work, or, those who are really serious about writing try to read a wide variety of things and learn, where they sit in the spectrum of things as well. And so we try to address all of those things here at Listen and Be Heard.
The idea of those caesuras, those visual spaces in the lines, is to kind of establish pivot points between one phrase and the other that conversationally, as I'm reading it, it doesn't necessarily yield itself up to a pause. But sometimes it does. Sometimes it aligns with how I read it, and sometimes not. A new day one. A new day one of us picked out of nostalgia for before the trials, with the same languorous relief as a morning in search of noon who finds it, but only at the expense of no longer being morning. You can cling to brunch or be something magic in the unlocked era already here, when the lights level down and you discover who you were meant to see in the dark all along. The kind of self-lethality that cheese lays on crackers and without which neither's shortcomings lead anywhere cute. My own shortcomings long for the adaptation that caused them, the evolutionary gambit of having become almost all water at the moment almost all the water in the world was inside living things, a Darwinian détente that ripples through my cheerful inability to cope with the apocalypse, as some unethically monogamous attachment to a single cipher, separate from all the rest, when we can't have one without the others, and the space sloshing between them.
The persistence of memory. If you write about something round, your writing will follow that shape. The clock and the persistence of memory, a New York pizza in the rain. The pizza in New York, a clock that tastes of salt and the dollars of tourists eating it on the curb. Logic says a form will free us up, some rules to live by in the minefields, which is not gray but flowering, not pollinated but somehow alive in its impossible purplish dreamscape. So we run a search, pull up the street view. Before the house stands a small girl whose face, obscured in the rubble of the foreground, has been blurred by some precision. It's like, look here, you're a tense lens mounted to a vehicle. Okay then. One apostrophe will bend the eyes false with astonishment, and then we get the very weight of looking. When hopeful, we imagine her demanding bribe money. When cautious, we become acquisitive as stars. Stein says there is no astonishment or width, but here there is both. For ours was the cycle of post-90s complacency fatigue. Even calling something a ruse was an act of clarity that could split things wide open, or so we told ourselves.
Autobiography. I knew nothing. The dog of kindness pressed her paw hard on my hip. Wild blackberries scratched at my arms, but later I couldn't find a mark. For so long, I hoped I'd turn out different than I am, dog help me. It's going to take me forever to carry back all this sweetness I found.
I was reading through this latest issue, 34, Posit 34. Let me ask you what might be a dumb question first. What's the difference between a journal and a magazine, if there is any?
Oh, yeah. I have no idea, but I guess I'm just going by intuition and thinking somehow magazine did connote something shiny that you hold in your hand and is floppy or whatever, is a physical. And so since this is not, journals seem more a little like a broader category. But I don't know. And
okay.
Yeah,
I don't
I just I guess it just sounded true to me.
It does. It sounds.
We should look it up.
Well, I guess it also connotes maybe not a monthly type of thing. A journal might be a little more extended. You come out 2 or 3 times a year? 3 times a year. Okay. And so that's like a work cycle of, I guess every 4 months you have to start an issue and see it through to its very beautiful presentation that you give it.
Thank you.
I think this issue, for me, just reading through it before I actually read any of your editor's notes about it, the overall thing about the issue that I would point to is sort of a playfulness with the language.
Great.
Which I personally really appreciate. I like to, sometimes I make up words or purposely misspell or use words in different ways. And I find, you kind of run the spectrum of what people are doing maybe contemporarily with the English language, of which maybe some people, I'm not sure, in this issue, it may or may not be their first language.
Fantastic. Oh, I mean, I'm thrilled that that's what you pick up in there and what you're seeing. So another thing that was part of the sort of the impetus for me to founding Posit at all was that I bemoan the fact that the contemporary literary community is a bit segmented, a bit balkanized. So people have their cliques and their aesthetic schools, and they often don't pay much attention to each other. So I was really interested in a place that was a little more all-inclusive and eclectic in its criteria, but with a strong emphasis on experimental work, innovative work. So, but not to be just not to be exclusive in any one of those directions. So I really like the idea of a conversation between types of work, types of writers, age, race, gender, all of those things.
You've done this without actually declaring a theme for any of these issues. And so how do you feel about that? Sometimes as a writer, I resist the idea of people giving me, I don't know, I'm not the best one for writer's prompts even. I sort of try to pursue what's coming up out of me as opposed to being given something to, which is, again, not a judgment, it's just my personal thing. But so I wonder how you approach the idea of each new issue and maybe why you don't give it a theme.
I know what you mean because I'm similar to you as a writer, but I think, again, so I'm very interested in work that doesn't try and close all the doors. It doesn't tell you what to think. It isn't just a one-way, here's my predigested creation, take it. And I think I want the same thing in each issue. I don't want to pre-decide what should be coming to me. I mean, something that relates to this is that we do invite writers we admire sometimes to contribute, but the vast majority of work we publish comes in over the transom. And the majority of writers that we published, we had not heard of until they sent us their work. Even, I mean, of course, many of them super accomplished writers, but, it's a big world of writers out there. So anyway, and so I guess what I'm saying is it's partly handing over the reins to the submitters, to the people who will become our contributors. It's a collaborative process, I guess, is how I feel, between me and them as to what makes between us and them.
It actually makes you more open to what's already being created, as opposed to trying to pull a creation out of someone that maybe they weren't even thinking about.
I think that's right. And again, like you said, definitely no judgment, because the greatest teachers are the ones who can help people make work they weren't going to do without the help. So that's it.
Well, and sometimes I'm sitting there and can't think of a one word. Right. So then a writing prompt might be helpful. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I understand that approach with your magazine. So having said that, why did you choose, what is it about the pieces in this issue that made you, let me rephrase this. I'm wondering, how many submissions you get, and how then, because maybe you like certain things that you don't publish because they don't, how do you sort of make these determinations and pull together an issue?
Yeah, that's I think that's the hardest thing about doing this, being on the editorial side, is in fact, you have to decline an incredible amount of work, including an incredible amount of work that you respect and like. And that's just the nature of the beast. So again, one of my particular things that mattered to me when I founded Posit, I wanted a journal that you could read as a reader pretty comfortably in one or two sittings. I wanted something intimate. I didn't want to slam people with a giant tome, or a figurative tome. So what this means is there's basically 12 written literary pieces, literary writers 3 times a year, and then 3 to 4 visual artists 3 times a year. That's not a lot of people to publish in a year. So mostly everything that we see we cannot take. So, but then that really sharpens your focus as a reader. And again, my team, Bernd Sauermann and Carol Chavon, our editor now, they're brilliant readers, and they're receptive, and they're brilliant writers also, and they're warm, generous, open-minded humans, and we read everything with care and attention, and so we agonize. I mean, it's horrible. That's the worst part. It really is the worst part, because you have to say no.
But you're assembling something, I think, that you feel comes together as an issue and not just as single contributions. Although I should note that you do publish several pieces by each contributor.
We do. Early on, I didn't always do that. And at this point, that's pretty much a commitment that, this is, again, one of the beauties and luxuries of online publication. The poems can be long. You have there's a lovely freedom in this regard, of length and how many pieces per writer and visual artist. I used to limit the visual artist number of pieces that I would publish, and I've expanded it because I just think it's an opportunity for people to see. And I can't even fully articulate how I feel when I make the dinner party of there's we accrue pieces that we have accepted over many, many, many months. And we work ahead. So, for instance, the next issue is already full, and the issue that's coming after is filling fast. So, but we accrue them, and then I don't know. I'm looking for some energy, I guess is what I would say. And often there are these thematic through lines that maybe I'm the only one that sees it, but they show up to me. That these I don't know. In the issue right now, I feel like there's just a really energetic, back to that word, and bold, brave exposure of what's beautiful in things that are not necessarily pretty or not necessarily nice. And that just really came out to me in many of the works. And so that was like my little, lodestar, whatever, guiding light. But, and often, the pandemic often is a theme.
Someone full of sparkle. Like someone full of sparkle in the form of batteries and marbles they ought not to have swallowed. The solution was inside us all along. Or maybe the solution was staying inside, roused and cagey, under a city whose hot swarms remain a standing argument to not live anywhere else, but which also composes itself as an essay to humanity that begins, "We are sorry for your loss," and keeps going until internalized beliefs in the mythic outside chance that a pure-hearted lab tech's razzle-dazzle heroism, or more impersonally that the economy might not be totally over, the idea of reopening despite only ever having been a chasm we participate in by screaming as we fall. Here's how my scream sounds today. You and I have everything in common with the virus that only wants to live, but which is so much better at it than we are.
There's sort of an ekphrastic element, at least to this issue. Not only do you feature art, but you feature poetry that features art.
Yeah. This issue, I agree with you. That's particularly present. But as I recall, the last issue had quite a bit of ekphrastic literature too. And yes, just as I was telling you that I wanted a dialogue or a conversation between maybe types of writers who don't necessarily always show up next, side by side. Same with visual art and literary art. I feel like that's another place where there's more room for conversation and mutual inspiration than we necessarily get. And so, I love that. We often have a category called text plus image, in which the thing we're publishing uses both elements of visual and textual. We don't always have work for that slot. I didn't have it this time, and we often publish collaborative pieces. So yeah, I love it when they're all sort of in one way or another talking about something about what the others are doing, if not literally.
This is WPVM LP 103.7 in Asheville, North Carolina. The show is Listen and Be Heard, and my name is Martha Senator. You've been listening to an interview with Susan Lewis, editor of Posit Journal, and some poetry by some of the contributors, Brendan Lorber, Mikey Swanberg, and Mary Wilson. I'll play now the conclusion of that interview and a little more poetry from the contributors to Posit Journal, and then we'll move on to Tony Robles, who had conversations with several writers for Redhawk Publications at the Catawba Valley Festival of the Arts. For people who love poetry and whose appetite has been whetted by this conversation, they should go to positjournal.com and look at the latest issue as well. You have every issue back to issue 1 archived there. And I will say that the cover, I love the cover. The colors, everything, it just really jumps out at you, the art as well that you have chosen. We should mention some of the names of the contributors to this issue. Would you like to talk a little bit about them just personally?
To this issue, well, the cover artist is Kukuli Velarde, and she's a South American artist who's working with iconography from pre-Columbian work, but also from colonialism, Christianity, Christian images, and she's sort of combining all of them.
Yes, and I love it. It's called Playfully Disobedient.
Yes.
Does not believe in hierarchies.
Yes.
de la Grande. I love it. And she's sticking her tongue out.
Yeah. And the work is
it's really wonderful.
It's like very true to the ancient art that we have all seen in both the craftsmanship and also the
yeah, I did a double take.
Yeah.
Because I thought maybe it was an ancient piece at first. And then I realized, no, that definitely is not.
It's not. And it's got a lot to say about, history and its injustices, but also, again, finding she's actually capable, her work, I think, of finding the generative effect of colonialism, that's a tough one. And, it's a very brave thing to even do. So, I really recommend, of course, when people read the work of the writers or look at the artists, and if they're interested, please, go find more of their work. The artists, we almost always have a link to their websites, but, these are super accomplished artists and they have amazing bodies of work.
Yes, they are. I particularly appreciated someone whose name I'm not sure how to pronounce, Heike Huatari.
Oh, yeah, he's an extraordinary writer. Right, Heike Huatari, I think, is how I would say it, but I don't know. And Heike has published with us before. So you can, if you Google him and Posit Journal, you'll find more. He's a retired professor and has many books under his belt. And I think, he's just a brilliant prose poetry writer. And prose poetry is one of the things I do a lot of. So I admit that I have a serious soft spot for it. And he's fantastic.
For would-be submitters, I think you've dropped a lot of hints, I guess I could say, about what you might consider publishing.
It is simple. If you go on our website, there's a guidelines button, and you go to guidelines and follow the prompts. Everything we work through submittable. We will open for submissions on October 1st because we get a lot of submissions and we're such a small crew. It can be a couple of months, so I apologize in advance. We try to be prompt, but we also are very thorough, so you get our care. But I think if there's one thing I would ask, plead, beg, please do look at our journal and what we publish. Every journal has its own creative aesthetic. It's just respectful to all of us who are writers and volunteers. If you do your homework a little bit. Because then you'll know whether you're any kind of are we compatible or not? That's what I would ask people to look at.
For those people who enjoy the play of language itself, I would certainly recommend looking at this poetry, as it's something that I particularly love, and I think that you really explore in depth in this issue. So I want to thank you very much for joining me today, Susan Lewis, editor, publisher-in-chief of Posit Journal at positjournal.com. Is there anything you would like to add that maybe I didn't give you the opportunity to say?
Only this is very important, not boilerplate, but it is that Posit is a inclusive space, and we are very, very much want to encourage women and BIPOC and any and all people from any and all age ranges, levels of experience. We have been the first publication for a few writers, and that's like our proudest moments. So it's beginners are welcome to us, but it's just we ask for people to be serious. But as always, we would like to hear more from voices that have not been heard as much traditionally. So that's a very, very important part of our mission.
Well, thank you for that, Susan, and thank you for spending a little time with me today at Listen and Be Heard.
Thank you so much.
For the Plank Road billboard. If the end is coming soonish, it didn't think to call ahead. Though in full sun you can see how gray I've gotten, how serious joy was about leaving its record across my face. My God, I like to stay up late in the kitchen talking trash, being sweet and noisy in those blue cat hours. How nice that was to be the last window still lit on the wine-dark street, and to go on glowing anyway, and to go on glowing.
Ether air. What it takes, laminate skull unpending, root, plotted an escape. Did the years parade lightly? Was the calcium in bloom? Imagine if there were 3 oranges and 2 suns, and a bright sense of one setting down and the other, arrayed in a deep and bitter skin, setting us up. We'd probably be taken for fools. Sea and the ocean, on the rippled floor, the wavering nets of light. The sense that some days are auspicious, some nights closed for business, some ganglia arranged to please, that some men are verbose in possession and lack some women holding the doors, that some bread contains, absorbs, seeks company, travels. Unmingling with other less clearly productive waters, this island could feed and carry our blood away. Islet and net shadow, weird canopy weather gold, when at last we're hopeful, secure from our want.
Hi, this is Tony Robles from Listen and Be Heard Radio. We are in Newton, North Carolina at the Catawba Valley Festival of the Arts, where Redhawk Publications is having a display. Many of their authors are going to be here at the Catawba County Library as part of the Catawba Valley Festival of the Arts. One of the authors that we do have here is Jenny Bates. Now, she is a poet, and her book, Essential, has just been published. It was actually published in August by Redhawk Publications. Redhawk Publications is based in Hickory, North Carolina. Jenny, welcome to Listen and Be Heard. How are you today?
I am just fine, thank you.
Tell us about Essential. Now, you said that's your 6th book of poetry?
Yes, it is. My first book, though, with Redhawk Publication.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the others were published by a small independent publisher in Clemens, North Carolina.
Clemens.
Yeah, it was with Hermit Feathers Press.
Hermit Feathers?
Yeah.
And what part of the state is Clemens?
Clemens is a suburb of Winston-Salem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or near Winston-Salem.
So that would be on the other side of the state.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Jenny, Essential, can you tell us why, give us the story behind the title of the book.
The title of the book is, it's originally from a conversation I had with a fellow poet as we wrote and shared poems for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all stemmed from those poems and from our conversations.
Can you tell us maybe what some of the conversations were about?
Spirit, soul, the way we connect with each other as well as with fellow beings. I write a lot about the equal partnership we have with animals and the animal kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see them any different than a human being, just in a different degree of how we live together.
In your poetry, that being the case, do you see your poetry as being a collaborative effort with nature?
Yes, absolutely. They usually, the animals I live in near Hanging Rock Park, so I live at the base of Cook's Wall, at the base of a mountain.
Yes.
And I have wildlife that I connect with every day. And as you get to know them, you get to realize that they're really not that different from us. And they usually tell me their names, or they'll tell me what I should write.
What are some? I mean, I'm just curious. What are some of the names?
We have a black bear named Grim. We have my crow family. The head crow is Pindar, and that's from a Greek poet. And there's a family of 7 of those, but of course they have a huge clan too. We have deer. The latest fawn is named Unreal.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah. The road is long. Each morning, I say good morning to the dead. So, if it's okay with you and you are alive, I'd like to say I love you instead. Because my head, hands, and ankles are wrapped, and both I and my words fall short, and because I cannot reveal all that I mourn or know. There is no way to articulate a long road with only one path, a last day. So my ankles, my head, my hands are wrapped on that road that pushes me long past every known boundary. I think I've always written all my life, though I pursued other paths. I was a classical musician for 25 years, and then I went into art. I went to the Detroit School of Creative Art and Design, came to Winston-Salem, and I fell in love with North Carolina and Winston-Salem, and then I met someone. We got married when I was 22, so I have been in North Carolina ever since.
Can you maybe just express your feelings about the poet and the function of the poet in the times that we're living in right now?
For me, since my primary focus is how we relate to our environment and the animal kingdom, a lot of times, a lot of my poetry in recent years, and especially in Essential, I am starting to touch on my own personal connection with myself as an aging woman in these times. But I think the greatest word that a poet can bring to their audience is empathy. This poem is entitled A Few Thoughts on Archery. To the calf born yesterday, shivering in the field with no shelter and no more notice by the ground that it lays on, sacred bloody yard art that may grow up anyway to become someone's afternoon meal. So, I'm a bit skeptical today, for what I see is a beautiful stream of calf music, a flowing of life that lives in accordance with itself and its world, not for my altering to interfere. You may think me a nut on one of those trees up there and you're everywhere, but that's okay. I'm wounded just like you. I'll continue to be like Artemis with a quiver full of soul arrows, my life a bow aiming at you because there is nothing that you have not been. Me too. Conceived and born. There's no suckling here, as though we were going to get some anyway. The sanctity of earth is a fast, the holy presence of prayer a fast. We are born of a mother that is not dependent on us. She is a planet, and a small, fragile one at that.
This is Listen and Be Heard Radio, WPVM FM in Asheville. Jenny Bates, the author of the new poetry collection, Essential. You can get her book at Malaprops, and Malaprops is in downtown Asheville. She is also on Facebook. If you'd like to get her book, you can order it via Facebook, and she'll pay for she'll pay for the shipping and handling. Once again, Jenny, thank you so much for sharing your poetry with us here on Listen and Be Heard Radio. Again, this is Tony Robles from the Catawba Valley Festival of the Arts here in Newton, North Carolina. Jennifer Owen, welcome to Listen and Be Heard. The name of your book is Prince Kindness. Can you tell us about your book?
Yes, so Prince Kindness is kind of taking the stigma of Prince Charming and turning it into a new look about how children can be kind and what would you want to be known as, and kindness is just something we can do every day. It's just little actions that make a big difference.
And this is your first book. Can you tell us about, it's Redhawk Publications. Can you tell us about how you conceived of the idea for Prince Kindness?
Well, I was in grad school when I started thinking about writing, and the idea just kind of came to me, as most ideas do. They just kind of float around in your head, and it's your choice to do something with it. So I decided to start writing it, and I started writing it in 2020, but I officially made my book possible in 2023. So I'm really excited about it.
So I guess this is kind of to upend or kind of counter the narrative of the Prince Charming. Can you talk about, the Prince Kindness as opposed to Prince Charming?
Well, Prince Kindness is just this little kid who he wants to be known as something different than Prince Charming. And so he goes on this little journey to figure out who he is and who he wants to be known for. And along the way, he realizes his everyday actions of kindness is what he chooses to be known for.
The Russian author Maxim Gorky said that when you write for children, you write for children as if you're writing for adults. The only difference is that you do it better. Can you talk about your, just your writing process, how long it took to get this book to become a reality? What challenges you may have encountered along the way?
Sure. I started writing this book in 2020, but then with the pandemic and everything, you kind of lose focus on your writing and focus on other things. Yeah. And I think when it came to this year, I finally had the courage to get back into writing, and this is what I wanted to focus on first. This is what I wanted to make happen. And I didn't know where to start, so I reached out to some other local authors and figured out what they went through, whether or not they wanted to pursue online publication or go to an actual publisher. And I talked to a local author, Scott Owens, and he told me about Redhawk Publications. Yeah. And so I said, I'm going to take the chance and do it, because what's the worst they're going to say? No. and then you just try somewhere else. But thankfully, Redhawk decided to publish me. They loved my book, my children's book, and from there, it's been kind of a dream, honestly, because you don't think it's really going to happen until it does, and then you're looking at the physical copy in your hand thinking, I did it, it's here in my hands, ready to sell. So I'm really excited about having this opportunity and other opportunities to come to get my book out there, and I definitely have other books coming.
So Jennifer, are you originally from this area?
I grew up in Banner Elk, North Carolina, but I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. So Banner Elk is my home. It's what I consider where I grew up. And I currently live in Lenoir, North Carolina. And I really hope this is my forever home because I really love this area.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Can you talk about working with an illustrator? Because it's so important, when you're pairing up with somebody that both of your visions kind of match. And even if they don't match exactly, that the artist has a sense of what your sensibility is. Can you talk a little bit about your illustrator and what that process, working with that person was like? I think Katarina?
Yes, Katarina. She was amazing. I reached out to her through Instagram, and I obviously looked up her work to make sure she was legit, and I loved what she had. And when we talked about it, she read my story and she was kind of happy about it, mainly because she's been wanting to work on an ice cream truck. And one of my scenes is an ice cream truck.
Oh, no kidding.
So I love when things like signs happen. And the really cool thing is, as we continue the process of the illustration, she would send me her ideas and I would be like, oh my gosh, that's literally what I was just thinking a couple hours ago. Or like, I hadn't thought about that, but I really like this idea. Or sometimes things happen, like one of my outfits in the books, I had this idea and I drew it. I'm not really an illustrator myself, but I do love to draw. And so I drew this idea and I sent it to her and I said, can you make this happen? And she turned it into more than anything I can ever imagine. This dress on the little girl, Abigail, in the book is just amazing, and I love the way she illustrated the book. I would love to work with her again.
This is fantastic. And may I ask you to read a few pages?
Sure.
If you'd like.
Sure.
And again, this is from the new children's book published by Redhawk Publications, Prince Kindness, which is written by Jennifer Owen and illustrated by Katarina Voitis. Voitis,
I think.
Yeah, Voitis. Okay.
All right, so the prince then notices a line waiting at an ice cream truck. He loves ice cream too. The prince decides to buy his own ice cream cone, a mint chocolate chip. He is excited. The father and son in front of him leave the truck with their strawberry ice cream. The little boy accidentally drops his scoop and starts crying. I'm sorry, kiddo. That's all the cash I had. The father comforts his son with a hug. I would like a strawberry ice cream cone, please, the prince says to the ice cream man. The prince walks over carefully to the crying boy. I got you another ice cream cone, the prince says. The boy smiles happily at the prince. That was kind. Thank you, says the father. You're welcome, the prince replies.
Nice. One of the things that people are concerned with in schools, one of the things I keep hearing is this thing about microaggressions and bullying. And it sounds like, your book is a way to reach children, to get them to understand that there's another way to communicate without bullying and microaggressions. Can you just, talk a little bit, tell us how you feel about that?
Yes, that's exactly what my books are about, is spreading the message of kindness and to try to reduce bullying in schools, because it is a big thing in children, to seeing that in schools. And I actually got bullied in school for having ADHD, and I mentioned that in my author's note.
Wow, okay.
So I really believe that kindness is important, and to teach kids at a young age that you can be kind in very simple ways. It could be someone who, their tower just got knocked over and you decide to help them rebuild it. It's so simple. It's little little acts that you can do every day that can make a really big difference. Because that child's going to go home then and be like, Mom, this person helped me rebuild it, and now they're my best friend.
Yeah.
Because kids, they really do see the world through a kid's eye. And so anything you do is going to make a bigger impact than you think.
And the thing is, too, with kids, it's all about possibility. There's possibilities. And if you curtail or in some way restrict the possibility and limit it to something that's negative, then sometimes, people, particularly children, will find it hard later on in life to get beyond that. Again, this is Prince Kindness. We're speaking with author Jennifer Owen. This is her first children's book. Again, thank you so much for being with us on Listen and Be Heard Radio. And for those that want to know more about your book and more about you, how can they reach you? Are there any websites, any places that they can go?
Yes, I am on all social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I am still working on my author website. It takes a little time to make sure it's just right, but you can find me on most of my social medias under Jennifer Owen Author or Jen Owen Author.
Okay. I know that the book festival is about to start in a few minutes, but if you can leave us with just these parting words, there are a lot of people that would like to, write a children's book. It's their dream, but somehow they just can't get around to doing it. They may not feel like they have it in them to do it. What advice would you give a budding or somebody that wants to do one?
I think the best advice I can give is to don't overthink it. I know that when I started writing it, I kept rereading it and reading it and thinking, oh, maybe it's not good enough. But then I gave it to my friends and my family and coworkers, and they read it, and they told me how much they liked it, or they gave suggestions of what could be fixed. And then I went from there. But it really is just a process, and you have to start by believing in yourself and that someone out there is going to read it.
Believing in yourself. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
This is WPVM Radio. The show is Listen and Be Heard, and my name is Martha Senator. You've been listening to my co-host Tony Robles speak with authors from Redhawk Publications. Jenny Bates is a poet who wrote a book called Essential. Jennifer Owen wrote a children's book called Prince Kindness. And of course, our own Tony Robles has a book with Redhawk Publications as well, which is one of the reasons he was there to present his own book of, which is one of the reasons he was there to present his own book of poems. His own book of poems about his experiences while working at a thrift store in Hendersonville, North Carolina. We're going to go on now, though, to my favorite part of this program today, which is a reading that was presented as a reading for people under 30. But it featured the poetry of children from a workshop that was run by Scott Owens. And we'll hear first from Scott, his own poetry that he used to inspire the children in the workshop to write their own poetry by telling them that they could write about anything. And that was part of a program called Abriendo Puertas. And Tony will also speak with the executive director of the Centro Latino, which sponsors that program. And also coming up, he'll be speaking with Cassidy Collins, the author of a series called The Avia, and Alan Brett, a veteran who talks with Tony about an anthology of writing by veterans called Brothers and Sisters Like These.
Communications is very pleased to be a part of this year's Catawba Valley Festival of the Arts.
This poem is called Poems Can Be About Anything. Your brother, your sister, your mother, your friend, you can write a poem about any of them. Your dog, your cat, your fish, a bat, you can write a poem about any of that. All you have to do is gather some words and put them in the way they want to be heard. Poems can be about anything, things you see, things you hear, things that are far or things that are near, things that are happy or things that are sad, things that are good or things that are bad, things that are real or things you imagine. Poems are a place where anything can happen. All you need are paper and pen and the courage to use your imagination. You can write a haiku or scribble out a clarihue. You can write about me and you or the funny things you see people do. One thing that's true that I can show you is that poems can be about anything.
My poem was about the fat dog. I had a dog who was fat. He could not even sit on his mat. He had a hat that did not fit. He put it on and then it's like, thank you. Venezuela, hoy partes a otras tierras ondeando tu bandera con una carga de sueños y expectativas nuevas. Sabes que donde vayas, tú serás Venezuela. Tu cuna, tu nación, donde quedan tus raíces, tu infancia, tus amigos y parte de tu corazón. Thank you. I am Abby and today I'm gonna read Caterpillar. Funny little caterpillar wiggled up the tree. He wiggled short, he wiggled long, he wiggled right to me. I put him in a box, don't go away, I said. But when I looked inside, I saw a butterfly instead. So I went outside and let the butterfly go and lived a happy life. And then it all happened again. The end. The good things about math. Math is about numbers, charts, bar graphs, multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting, categorical and numerical data, and much more. It does not matter if you're big or small because math might help you with a job. To be a math person, 1, all you have to do is do any type of math, and 2, just be a person. That's why I love math. Thank you to my math teachers, Ms. Dalton, my 5th grade teacher, and Ms. Dillon, my 4th grade teacher. That's all. Owls. Owls are cool because they can camouflage with their feathers. And they see in the night, in the gully, but better in the night. They like to eat rats, sometimes other owls, birds, hares, and squirrels, young foxes, lizards, and fish. Owls' predators are northern goshawks. Sometimes they are other owls. Owls live in the dense forest, desert, plains, and wetlands. This is why I think owls are interesting. There are a lot of research you can do about owls. This is why I love owls.
The title of my poem is called Kindness. It's what you say to others when it costs you nothing at all. It's a powerful tool at the act someone falls. If insecurity rises, it's your voice, then your tone. Kindness isn't a weakness. For some, it's rarely shown. For those who know long days, it's what makes them strong. For those who know loss, it's life's ringtone. For those who have felt pain, it's a gentle gesture of light. And for those who know addiction, it's the action to get up and fight. For those who know a less lavish life, it's the realm where you see character over experience is all right. And that defying the odds isn't such a fright when a community backs you in the eyes of the sky. And a fisted hand is raised to make a statement, that which is polite. Oh, what a space, a realm of existing in just peace. If only our world could see the real diamonds you teach. To put a price on kindness will be a number that couldn't exist, because in that moment, the act of kindness is a dual action with your hand and your mind that says, even if I don't receive it, I still won't quit. Kindness is being able to analyze a situation, see what you bring to it, and let it out. Overanalyzing it can be expensive because in that moment, that 1 millisecond, do you have the power to leave a permanent footprint on earth that can never be removed, that will be stamped with your name, not what this world calls you, not what your family says you are, not who is influencing your life, but your name. When you figure out what's valuable, it will be in that moment you'll see that it's unnoticeable to the human eye, but your destiny to a happy life is obtaining a tight grip to the things that you cannot see. Be kind to yourself because you're giving it your best shot. In a world that's swarming you with opinions and perspective that come from a home base of selfishness and transactional thinking that'll lead you to unkind moments, be kind to those who persistently show you time and time again that you're worthy of the same kindness you give out, even if it's not received how it escapes your lips. But most importantly, be kind to those who aren't kind to you. Because in adversity, you can either be the hero or the villain to yourself. Being the villain is easier because there's not much thought, but being a hero to our earth, the place we call at home, human nature because we coexist, and with ourselves because your existence is what this world was created for. When netting kindness, you open doors for little pockets of gold to land at your feet. But to get that gold, you must not only know of kindness, but that its true strength is released when it's assumed form to your identity. You elevate, arise, and metamorphose your soul when you are able to convert darkness to light, when selected merely just to be kind.
Yeah. Okay, this is Tony Robles again from the Catawba Valley Festival of the Arts in Newton, North Carolina. And for our WPVM FM listeners in Asheville, this is a wonderful, wonderful program. We just heard a group of youth poets from the Centro Latino program. We have the executive director of Centro Latino, Jenny, with us. And well, first of all, thanks for taking time to speak with Listen and Be Heard. And tell us about the program and how poetry, how you guys are using the written word and poetry with your youth.
So the Abriendo Puertas program translates to opening doors, and essentially we're just trying to, offer these students everything, open their doors to a lot of experiences and opportunities. One of them, we realized the importance of writing, poetry, and that also helps enforcing their English language skills because all these students come from Spanish-speaking homes.
Yes.
And the majority of the parents don't speak English or aren't able to help them, and so our responsibility is to help and guide not just the children, but the families as a whole, the parents, give them the opportunities that they deserve and to know that they are welcome to use their voices, to be heard. Our Abriendo Puertas program offers an after-school tutoring and homework help. And through that, we also do enrichment activities, one of them being the poetry workshops that we just hosted. So
the kids, so the parents are monolingual, Spanish-speaking. I guess, with children too, being in a situation where, they're children of immigrants, or perhaps the children have come at a very young age. They acquire English, so they're kind of living in two worlds in a way. Can you tell us, how that really impacts the children? Because that could be a lot of responsibility when they have to kind of be the voice of their parents, and how maybe Centro Latino, what your role is in that.
Absolutely. So as a first-generation child of immigrants myself, I am an alum of Centro Latino's program, Abriendo Puertas. So as a child, usually, as early as 4, 5, 6 years old, we're already translating documents, and we're translating information that children shouldn't have to translate to their parents. Sometimes, just to talk to the school council, to talk to the police officer, to talk to their next door neighbor, they have to bring their 6-year-olds out to help them communicate. So what Centro Latino is doing, we're offering free ESL classes to the parents. Mm-hmm. We're opening the doors to these programs, letting the parents know that they're welcomed in these spaces. And I think it just makes a big impact because we're living in two cultures, essentially. We're in the United States of America. We're in Catawba County, where English is the predominant language. And so we have to adapt. We have to be the ones to learn, but we also can feel comfortable in these spaces. And I want to make sure that these families feel welcome, mm-hmm. that they feel like they're able to do these activities, that they're able to take up this space.
Yeah. And how are the kids taking to the literacy the program with the poetry and creative writing? How are they, how are they responding to it? Because obviously, I mean, with what I just heard, I mean, the poetry is great.
Well, I think you could tell they were very excited.
Yeah.
They really enjoyed it. They had so much fun. They would show up with so much energy. They would just throw out, I think sometimes the excitement was just too much for them. They would just blurt out different topics, different things that they could write about. Scott Owens was amazing and so patient. And so he just would reinforce, yeah, absolutely. You can write about anything. And, kids being kids, they would blurt out capybaras, they would blurt out pencils, and you can write about anything that you're passionate about, that you've experienced, anything that you think. And we're just trying to let these kids use their critical thinking skills, let them express themselves artistically. We really support and believe in the arts as well.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that makes up a fabric of a community. There's a if I can make a suggestion, there is a Salvadorian poet who you may or may not be familiar with him, Jorge Argueta. He is the current poet laureate of San Mateo, California, but he's written maybe 30 children's books, and a lot of it is about the immigrant experience. It's bilingual. Beautiful, beautiful books. Jorge Argueta. In Película in my... How do you say... ¿Cómo se dice? A movie in my pillow in español.
Película?
A movie in my pillow.
Película en mi almohada?
I think so. That's one of his books. So, maybe you can incorporate some of his writings. Since he's again from El Salvador, lived in San Francisco. I guess he moved there in the early '80s. He's the current poet laureate of San Mateo, California. One of the young poets from your program wrote a very powerful piece about Venezuela and the journey. And I think that has to really be a part of the narrative when people are writing, particularly the children of immigrants, so they don't forget. Can you talk about that and how that's part of the nuance of your program, because that can oftentimes go unaddressed. You could just pass over that with some programs.
Absolutely. So we also, Centro Latino, we're the heart of the Latino community here. We try to be as inclusive, united as possible. But it is super important to know where our roots are from, because that's a big part of who we are as people. It is super important for us. We try to incorporate, learning about different Latin American countries, learn about where our ancestors come from, because at some point it's okay to get culturally involved and mix, we're the melting pot. But it's also important to remember who you are, remember where your roots are from, remember who, like you said, your abuelos, your abuelas, the foods, because it's more than just the language. It's more than just who you are as an individual, but it's who you are culturally, and it's an identity. So I think it's super important to be able to remind these kids and keep that culture alive. It's we can be proud Americans, but you can also be proud Venezuelan, Mexican. You can be proud of being from two cultures.
Yeah.
Because I am very proud to be Mexican American. I have two very distinct cultures.
Yeah.
And it's something to be proud about. There's a lot of beauty there.
Well, there's also connections too, because we're in I guess Latino or Latinx Heritage Month, and then we are approaching in October Filipino American History Month, and there's that connection there. We have the connection with the galleon trade from Mexico to from Manila to Acapulco, and how you had a lot of Filipinos that were in Mexico. So there's a lot of that, and like I was saying, when I was doing the poem earlier, that there are certain words, that like the word hermano, right? We have a word that's close to that in Filipino called manong, right? Mm. So it's like manong, it's like a word of respect for somebody old, like an older brother. Manong, hermano, zapatos, cebollas. So always, I think as language wordsmiths and culture bearers in poetry, we try to kind of bridge those things. And so, so your work is primarily in this county, Catawba, or is it in?
So we mainly serve Catawba County, but we are the only one in the Unifor area, so Alexanderburg, Caldwell County as well. We get clients from Iredell County, we get clients from Lincoln County. We don't turn anyone away. If they need our assistance, we're going to help the best that we can.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for being with us. We're talking with Cassidy Collins. She is a novelist, came out with a book fairly recently. And, Cassidy, first of all, welcome to Listen and Be Heard. Thanks for taking time to talk to us. Tell us about your novel, Aria.
Yes, so my name's Cassidy, and I have, it's really a series called The Aria. It's about a young girl who grows up in a dystopian society, and the only way that she can win her freedom or express herself creatively is through entering a musical contest. So her name's Carson, she's 15. It's her journey as she enters this program and has friends that are dancers, there's orchestras, there's bands, there's singers, and it's her traveling and writing and trying to earn her freedom. It actually, the stakes get a little bit higher because the day that she has her first performance to enter this contest, her father, who is a doctor, gets arrested for malpractice. So then the stakes are really high because she has to win. And so it's her, and there's a bit of romance, and there's a bit of, it's got the dystopian love triangle, it's got the travel, it's got the writing. So, and of course, it's all centered around music. Mm-hmm. So, yes.
So there's a little bit of everything in terms of the stakes and, a lot of things going on with the plot. Now you began writing this novel. Well, first of all, it's a young adult novel. You were 16?
I was 16. Yes, I started the book series when I was 16, and so I was, I think, late sophomore, early junior in high school, and finished the entire series. So books 1, 2, and 3 by the time I was about 18 years old. Yes.
Wow. So, tell us about what inspired you to become a writer to begin with? Was it something that you always felt that you were, or did you get encouragement from a teacher, or?
Yeah, so, I always say I have been writing since I knew how to pick up a pencil. Even before I knew how to write letters, I would just do scribbles and do little illustrations and show them to my parents or show them to my friends and tell them the story, even though I couldn't necessarily write it all out. Yeah. So I've always been a writer. I do think that's part of me. I grew up in theater. Part of my inspiration for the aria was I grew up in the Lenoir Youth Chorus in this area, and so I got to travel and sing and learn classic songs, classic music. Trained in a lot of different areas, and I also did musical theater, so I always loved the stage, and so pulled a lot of that travel and music inspiration to write this fiction book.
And you were born where?
I was born in Hickory, so I'm from here, and then I went away to college for a few years, and now I'm back and working full-time.
They say that poets are sprinters and novelists are marathoners. Can you tell us about your process in writing a longer piece, what challenges you encountered, and for people that might be wanting to write a novel, maybe share some advice. Maybe there were some pitfalls, maybe there were some things that you had to overcome.
Yeah, so absolutely. Like I said, I wrote this in high school. I knew a few people who were writers, but mostly I kind of put it to the side. I put writing to the side. I put theater to the side when I went to college. And then I had entered a creative writing program in college along with a communications program. So I was juggling the double major, the job, everything. But I would say for the writing process itself, I think with my background in theater, and I've always loved film, I always see the scenes. It comes very scenic. I've been told I'm a heavy dialogue, heavy scene. So I kind of take the scenes as they come, and then really just with edits and re-edits. I'm on a novel right now. I'm on my 7th edit of this 400-page novel. And so it's taken me 5 years, but I've just continued as the scenes have come and as I've experienced new things and done some research. It does take a lot more research than you would expect to be able to create an authentic character or create an authentic setting, and find ways to tie it together. I always think of a book first as how it plays out like a movie, and then I try to add some fun characteristics or character traits of these characters to make them real and as believable as possible. But then I kind of give myself a break, take a step back, maybe revisit the book in, a few weeks or a month, or for a longer project, even a few years, and think, how can I make this readable? How can I make the reader really understand and make this easy for the reader to read?
This is Cassidy Collins' a young adult novel called The Aria, and this is published by Redhawk Publications. You want information on this, it's www.redhawkpublications.com. They are based in Hickory, North Carolina. And anyway, Cassidy, I know that you got to get back to the table to sell all the books, but if you can give our WPBM listeners who might want to get your book and learn more about you, if you have any social media platforms or anything like that, how they can get in touch.
Yes, so you can go on my website. It's CassidyCollins.net. And then I also have CassidyCollinsAuthor@gmail.com. And that's all lowercase, CassidyCollinsAuthor@gmail.com.
We are talking right now to Alan Brett. He is an author. He is part of an anthology, a couple of anthologies, one of which is Brothers and Sisters Like These, an anthology of writings by veterans. Alan, thanks for talking to us at Listen and Be Heard. Can you tell us about the book Brothers and Sisters Like These?
It came out of some treatment several years ago. And one of the ways of dealing with PTSD is by writing, and writing about those experiences. It also helps you, your family, other people, especially when we start putting it in book form, because they get to read it. And a lot of times, it might not be the same, but it just sort of touches on things and makes somebody else think better, and then maybe get some help. Because PTSD is manageable. It's not curable, but it is manageable.
So did the anthology come as a result of the workshops?
They were running a group in Nashville, and at the end of that, they wanted to do something more. And that's how the Veterans Writing Alliance got formed. Mm-hmm. And out of that, that's where Brothers and Sisters came from.
Okay. And I guess, given the shared experiences that people that have served, veterans have, I guess that transfers into a brother and sisterhood of writing, I would assume.
Also of shared experience that we always call other soldiers brothers.
Yes.
And now we have sisters because we have women soldiers. Mm-hmm. So there's the brothers and the sisters. But we also have in the group some widows of veterans.
Well, yeah.
And some Gold Star mothers.
Yeah.
That means their son got killed in action, mm-hmm. and the family gets a Gold Star.
Can you tell us, Ellen, about your own your own evolution in writing, how you came to it and how it's helped, maybe transform the way you see your own experience or maybe reconcile some things?
I sort of came in the back door. I've been a therapist for a lot of years and worked with veterans coming back. One of them was an inpatient program, and I wrote this thing about coming back from war that was part of the treatment program. I've been doing this 34 years with it. And during that time, I also needed to get help from me. So it sort of dovetails.
So the writing becomes a vehicle for, I guess, a person's healing, a person's, I guess a person's journey.
Yeah, and healing is a good word to call it, because they can start to get better. And a lot of times they'll go into therapy, get out for a while, something will happen, they'll go back, and that's part of the journey.
Redhawk Publications is based in Hickory. Now, they're the ones that published the book. Can you talk to us about, what that process was like working with an editor, what the process was like for you in terms of making it a reality?
What the organization does is, when we know we're going to be lining up to do another book like we're going to next year, we'll start asking the veterans and the writing groups to submit papers, submit articles, or in this case, stories. And we'll go through, and the publisher takes care of a lot of things to the end. And sometimes work might need a little help, sometimes not.
So the books, I guess, are a combination of essays. Are there poetry as well?
Yes, essays and poetry.
Your particular piece, is it an essay?
Yes.
Okay. What is it about? I personally I'm a big fan of the essay form. What was it about essays that drew you to it?
It was part of the thing in what I was doing while I was working, that we had them writing. We'd give them the prompt, what they needed to write about, and they would write about it.
Okay.
This is sort of the same thing.
Okay.
That if you write enough about your stories, eventually you might even come to an end.
Yeah.
With it. So.
As far as, you might have, among our WPVM listeners, we might have a veteran or two or three that might be listening that might not be ready or comfortable with joining a group, but they might want to express themselves with the written word. Is there any, pointers or maybe even advice that you can give that person?
If that's an issue, and they might need to feel like they need to do something more interpersonal, one-on-one, there's some very good people at the VA and mental health, and that's where we still run a group on healing at the VA. We don't, they do. And they feed people into us with it.
Okay, so we're speaking again with Alan Brett. Alan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, WPVM, FM.org out of Asheville, the voice of Asheville. Again, Brothers and Sisters Like These, an anthology of writing by veterans. This is published by Redhawk Publications. Just reading a little bit from the back, it says, for much of our history as Americans, the men and women who defend our country have only had their stories generally told, often directly connected to the battlefields upon which they were trained for service. Seldom have we heard their voices reveal the emotions, behaviors, sleep, dreams, and mood that come with being a soldier. Brothers and Sisters Like These, an anthology of writings by veterans, collects 77 remarkable accounts of lives lived in a way that everyone can feel. Again, Alan Brett, thank you so much for being with us. And again, this is Tony Robles, WPVM FM, Listen and Be Heard Radio. And now we are going to toss it back to the studio. Thank you.
You are tuned to WPVM Radio in Asheville, North Carolina, and WPVMFM.org worldwide. The show is Listen and Be Heard. My name is Martha Senator, and my co-host is Tony Robles. You can find out more about Listen and Be Heard at listenandbeheard.net. If you would like to be heard, if you've been listening and want to communicate with us about what you've been listening to, you can send an email to editor@listenandbeheard.net or go to listenandbeheard.net, sign up for our email newsletter, and look at the video, the many unedited author interviews that we've posted there as videos, and the archive of this show, which is also a podcast available wherever you like to listen to podcasts. We've just been listening to a series of interviews by Tony Robles at the Catawba Valley Festival of the Arts. And before that was an interview that I did with Susan Lewis, the editor of Posit Journal. And we've heard from numerous poets today and writers. I want to thank everybody who's involved in the production of Listen and Be Heard. DJ Jeannie Hopper has been really giving us a boost in the last couple of weeks, not only by contributing the spoken word set that we've heard at the end of the last few shows, but also by helping me to produce this show and improve the sound quality and various other things that we're working on still in the background. Tony Robles, of course, who gets around and speaks to a lot of people with a very community-minded way of doing things, and I've been learning a lot from the interviews that he's conducted with so many different accomplished authors from all over the place, really. And of course, we have to thank Davian Dial, our station manager at WPVM, who makes it possible for us to share this program with people here in Asheville, North Carolina, and around the globe at WPVMFM.org. Jay Rodriguez, he contributes loops and background sounds that you hear throughout the show, and you can find out more about Jay on Instagram at jrodriguezsierra or his website, jrodriguezsierra.com. We're going to take the show out today with some spoken word that Jeannie gave to me. I did play a little something in the background already called I Survived 45 by Josh Milan. In honor of this limited release, Josh adds, I wish to dedicate this release to those that have survived 45. If that statement resonates with you, then this song is a great meditation and a great declaration. I Survived 45 is something I can hardly say without a tear developing in my eye. This is a song of gratitude. I love you all. We love you too, Josh. We're going to go now to History by Samora Pinderhughes from his album Transformation Suite. Samora Pinderhughes is a composer, filmmaker, and interdisciplinary artist. He works in the tradition of the Black Surrealists, those who bend word, sound, and image towards the causes of revolution. Transformation Suite, centered in the belief that there is a soundtrack to every revolution. The vision for the Transformation Suite is that it will foster dialogue on social justice issues throughout the world, show how art can create social change, contribute to the powerful growing movement on behalf of Black lives around the country, and empower all people, especially youth, to make their voices heard. And we'll take the show out with a little something that Jeannie sent me that I did on her show Liquid Sound Lounge when I visited New York City, I don't know, more than a year ago, like last April. So please enjoy the rest of the program, and thank you for listening and allowing us to be heard.
We built you, Sam, in tears and sweat and blood, blisters and sores, sun rays sift through our gaze, leaving holes in our todays, murdering any hope for tomorrow. What happened to that God you spoke of? Punched down my throat, kicked in my face. I ain't seen him in your eyes lately. I ain't heard him in your words. You even walking like the devil these days. With a sly shift, a crooked grin, smirking at the dollar signs of tomorrow, sealing your eyes from the horrors of today. Don't you choke on that hate you cooked in that awful scented kitchen of pain. Tell me why you lied, and was it worth it? The culture you called stool, stepped on and then stole. The malignant markings you left on the souls of folk, scratching for breath in the land that calls them pariah for trying to breathe. The secondhand murders you had a first hand in creating. The love you sold, smashed and shoved into the hulls of ships, to grow wretched, rot and fester, to ooze, bubble and pus, to die in the darkness. So tell me, was it worth it?
got. Give me what you got. Give me what you got. You should have a lot. You should have a lot by now. By now. 'Cause we've been around. Been around, heard sounds. We brought him out from deep down. Shared what we cared about. Found and lost love. Chased doves. Asked for wisdom from above. Gotta know these. Made peace. Poked, prodded, plodded on. Still nothing's right. Nothing's right. We fight to shed light. And friends and lovers gone. Gone before their time. Making mine precious. Not to be messed with. Make sure your wish meshes and blesses my life. Don't bring strife. I'm looking for a wife. Desire for a mother or some other. Than who I am or how I want or dare or care to be seen on the scene. Where you found me in the first place. Without a trace of your assistance. Even knowing of your existence. Give me what's real. that I can feel. Not chocolate valentines. Will you be mine? Pretty flowers. Whining and dining for hours and hours. Boasts about your powers. Just give it to me straight from the gate. No wedding ring, fancy bags, expensive car, cream in a crystal jar. No travel to far places. Stasis. Cases of beer. Fear of feminine fury. No flurry of confusion. Illusions. Suspension of disbelief, or beef about your baggage. Just give me what you got. Stir it up in a pot. Serve it to me hot with your special sauce. At no loss to your self-esteem. Be what you seem. Be what you seem. To give while we live. Give me your belly laugh. Share your dream. The way it seems now. How it be. What you see. Give me. Give me. Give me. Every little bit of everything. Every little bit of everything. Ring my bell. Tell me you're not waiting. You're not wishing. You're not missing. You're not dissing my sister. Give me your best. Open your chest. Pull out your heart. show it to me. With all the darks. Put it on the table where I can see. Leave the rest of your shit at my door. Take it when you go. Be happy with what you got. Be happy with what you got. And give it to me. Give it all up. Give me what you got. Give me what you got. 'Cause you should have a lot. But now, give it all. Be happy. Be happy with what you got. And give it to me. Give it to me. Give it all. Give me what you got. You should